Welcome to the real world. My name is Cameron. Thank you so much for joining us on this very special episode, episode 101 of the Real World Podcast. We are talking all about the best alien invasion movies because A Quiet Place Day One is in theaters now. We're going to give you our review of that in just a moment. Let's get started. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Real World Podcast. Make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. We're huge movie fans here. We cover all kinds of different movies, new movies in theaters, on streaming, physical media collection behind me. We do it all. So happy to have you here joining us for the 101st episode. Our big 100th episode was last week. We kind of changed up the format a little bit. We're going to kind of continue with that format. We'll explain it all in just a moment. But first, let me introduce my very special guest. It is Mr. Bert. How you doing, sir?
Hello, Cam. I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing well, ready to talk about alien invasion movies. It's going to be a fun one. Before we get into our picks for the best alien invasion movies, we wanted to cover the new film, A Quiet Place Day One. We both got to see this opening weekend. It's doing very well at the box office, had a huge opening night, bigger than the
Mm.
first two movies. So it's doing very well. I'm sure we have very many more quiet places to go to in the future at the theater, which is going to be great because I'm a big fan of this franchise. But we wanted to break down our review of the film, so we're going to do that right now. All right, folks, we are going to talk about A Quiet Place Day One. This is the Quiet Place prequel, now playing in theaters. You can get your tickets now to see this movie on the big screen, which is, of course, the best place to watch it. Well, maybe with some caveats I'll talk about in just a moment. But um, this movie, has been in development for a while. Of course, the first Quiet Place movie came out back in 2018. John Krasinski wrote and directed, co-wrote and directed that first film. Stars his wife Emily Blunt, so it's a bit of a family affair there. And then, of course, it was so popular they ended up making a sequel, Quiet Place Part Two, following the same family along their journey trying to survive in an alien-infested world in the not too distant future. And then this idea came about for A Quiet Place Day One, where they went back and kind of showed us the first day the aliens arrived. We get a little hint of that in Quiet Place Part Two. The opening scene is kind of that
Hmm.
first attack on the family who lives in a kind of small town, some small town in the Midwest somewhere. And this one really changed the formula because not only is the entire movie in that first day, but it's also in New York City. So a very different environment, all new characters as well. And so they really changed it up. New director and writer, even though Krasinski gets a story by credit. That can mean a variety of different things. Either he came up with the idea or he kind of actually had a hand in helping write it. I'm not sure exactly the extent to which he was involved, but I know he's pretty passionate about it. This whole world that he's helped kind of build out. So I would suspect that he had quite a bit of involvement in it. But yeah, this is a unique movie, very much in the same vein as the other two films. Very much a horror thriller kind of vibe to it. Definitely some scary moments throughout. Some big kind of action moments as well. But at its heart, it's really still a character driven type of a story, much like the first two films are. So going into this, my expectations were not, I wouldn't say through the roof or anything, because you never know when, a new director comes in and we get a new cast and it's a prequel and we're
Hmm.
like, I don't know, it's probably not going to live up to the first two. But I was pleasantly surprised. I really think this does live up to the first two as far as the quality goes, the filmmaking, the performances, the characters. I thought it was really, really good. I really enjoyed the movie. I had a great time watching it. Our theater was great. The theater
Yeah.
experience, as I mentioned, there's some caveats because with a movie like this, being quiet is of utmost importance throughout the movie.
Yeah.
So if you have chatty audience members with you,
Uh,
it can kind of ruin the experience a little bit.
hmm
And
hmm
fortunately, even though our theater was packed out, I didn't really notice any chatter. Uh, you know, uh, People were into it. They would laugh at certain moments and things like that. But it was a really, really good experience in the theater, I have to say. So
That's
I was,
lucky. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So that element of it was great. Really enjoyed the performances. Lupita Nyong'o is kind of the lead character here. Sam, Joseph Quinn, who's a rising star. He was on Stranger Things. He played Eddie on Stranger Things last season, and he's now been cast in the next Fantastic Four movie by Marvel. So he's kind of an up and coming star, which is pretty cool. I really liked his character, and I thought his performance was great as well. As I mentioned, lots of great action here. The creatures are as scary as ever. They do a great job, building suspense and all of that stuff. So all of again the technical aspects for me were on point throughout the film, but it also had a very heartfelt story. I felt that I was really into and I really enjoyed. So those are kind of my spoiler-free thoughts. I would definitely give this a positive review. I would say it's worth going and checking out, especially if you like the first two movies. I think you'll get a lot out of it. But Bert, why don't you give us some of your non-spoiler thoughts on what you thought of Quiet Place Day One?
Okay, I'll try to give some general things on kind of what to expect without a lot of detail. But
Yeah,
well, the first two Quiet Places are essentially alien invasion dramas, right?
sure.
Little bit different than some a lot of alien invasion films. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I had immense expectations. A Quiet
Okay.
Place One is one of my favorite films of all time. Part
Okay.
two is pretty good too.
Yeah.
And I've been waiting for the film for like a year and a half or longer.
Right.
I don't know exactly how long. It's probably one of the three biggest films I was looking forward to this year.
Right.
So unfortunately, I had a much different take on the
Mm.
film.
Okay.
I'll just mention a few things. First of all, I get it. They're trying to create a dramatic picture, but I didn't expect such a small cast, small plot
Oh,
kind of
sure.
situation. I
Right.
mean, you got to understand. I get the first two are more about a family removed from a big city, but
Yeah.
when you look at the trailer, and I've watched it three times, I didn't watch it before the movie, and I
Okay.
still had certain expectations. But after watching it after the movie, and knowing that Michael Bay is a producer, I don't
Yeah.
understand why we get the movie that we do.
Mm.
And it's the movie for some people. I mean, you liked it, but what I
Sure.
was hoping for is something quite a bit more bombastic and wider
Ah.
in scope.
Right.
Unfortunately, I didn't really like the character work is fine, but it felt more like some indie drama at times,
Sure.
juxtaposed with these aliens coming in and trying to attack them. So it just I was
Right.
trying to figure out how that even really made sense, and to me, it really didn't.
Gotcha.
I didn't feel like the film broke any new ground. I thought there were lots of
Mm.
plot holes. So I don't
Mm.
have a lot of great things to say. Um, I'll say a couple in the spoiler
Yeah, yeah,
part.
yeah.
I will say a
Yeah.
couple
Yeah,
of
we'll get into
things
that.
about it.
Right.
But unfortunately, yes, I was very disappointed in
Okay.
this third film.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, so we got two different points of view. That's great. That's why we do a podcast like this because we do come at
yeah,
things from different angles and have different outcomes of how we thought of things. And that's what's great about cinema is two people can watch the same thing and one person like it, one person not. So that's great.
it's
I
like a work of
appreciate your
art. You like
thoughts.
a yeah, like a painting or a sculpture. Some people
Anything.
like it,
Yep.
some don't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally subjective. So that's great. This is going to be a great conversation. Those are our spoiler-free thoughts. So we're going to get into spoilers now. So this is your spoiler alert. All right, getting into spoilers now. We can talk about anything we want with the movie. If you haven't seen it, go to the timestamps down below, skip ahead to
Right.
our alien invasion discussion. Um, but let's talk spoilers. Do you want to lead the discussion? Because it seems like you have a couple specific things you want to kind of address, and I can maybe give you
Okay.
the counterpoint maybe to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So a few things. I'm not going to list everything that I didn't like about it, but I'll
Yeah.
throw a few things out there. The film is just overall very dimly lit. Now I saw this in the
Mm,
theater where it's projected and it's supposed to be this, probably the best way you could possibly see it.
mm,
I mean it's digitally projected, right?
yeah, sure.
And there were times where it was just so dark that I couldn't really tell what was going on necessarily.
Mm.
And just there's it the grimness never lifts, and I feel like in Quiet Place, at least Quiet Place One, there's a lot of really nice. I mean, they film in the fall and it's outdoors and it's bright at
Right.
times, and so you get that contrast. I didn't think day one was very scary.
Mm,
We don't. see really much new about the creatures. We don't learn anything about their origin or
Mm.
why they came or how they came here.
Hmm. Right.
Um, so uh,
Well,
I again, I just go ahead.
let
Yeah,
me just
feel
speak
free to
on that
respond. Yeah,
real briefly. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't I get that it was dimly lit. A lot of it was particularly of course the night sequences. There are several scenes that I remember that stand out where they're running through the streets during the day though. So I didn't feel like it was too dark. I wouldn't say overall.
Well,
I
I guess
actually
what I'm saying is, oh, sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, it just they pick a day in New York City when it's very overcast to begin with.
That's
So
true. Yeah.
I feel like maybe that was a missed opportunity, but it was really when it got super dark and there's a scene
Yeah.
underwater and I was
Right.
going, what? I can't even really
Okay.
see what's happening.
Sure.
So that was kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I get that. I think they might be doing that some of that intentionally though, because the creatures can't see and they're
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
everything by sound. And
Hmm.
our characters, I think, only have like a flashlight throughout most of the
Hmm.
movie. So
Yeah,
that might have been intentional, it's kind of trying to have more of an auditory experience, maybe.
sure.
I'm not sure, but that would maybe be my guess. Um, I also actually kind of liked the scenes, especially as soon as the aliens land and she's on that bus and she wakes up and it's very cloudy, foggy, a lot of
Yeah.
smoke everywhere, and you can't really see again what's going on. And so I liked that because I feel like this movie you could go into this movie without having seen the first two, obviously. And I
Yeah.
feel
Hmm.
like it's a great reveal of the creatures when it comes through the smoke there in that one scene where she's on the ground next to the car. I really liked shots like that, where,
Hmm.
again, I think it's smart to not assume that everyone in the audience has already seen the first two movies and know what the creatures are and know what the whole
Right.
thing is.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. Um, there was something else. What was the other thing you mentioned was, no, you mentioned the lighting and there was, what was the other thing you were just getting into? I can't.
I'm sure we'll circle back around
Yeah,
to
go
it.
ahead. Keep going.
You mentioned the water. Toward the end of the
Mm,
film, the guy is being chased and he jumps off the pier or wharf or whatever it's called,
right.
and he escapes. And if the aliens can't see, why wouldn't they follow him over that? Like they don't know that they're about to plunge into water, which is clearly, I don't know, 20 feet below where,
Oh,
stuff like that. I mean, I'm not trying to
interesting.
nitpick. It's just that
Yeah,
um, okay, so let me continue on with some other things too. Well,
sure.
a big part of it is that we get this great template from A Quiet Place Part Two. The first intro of that film where it is flashback to day one.
Yeah.
To not have something along those lines and have kind of this completely darker film where you can't really see much and you only experience one or two people's sort of intimate reaction to that just felt like kind of a cop out and almost to me I started thinking this is a New York City alien invasion film. Are they just trying to cut the budget? Because I mean we've seen we've seen in films like Cloverfield was made for $25 million and it feels
Yeah.
like the entire city is
Mm,
they traverse the entire city trying to get away from it. And you see all these people in all these situations, and I felt
mm,
that was a great example of how to handle. Because why bring it to New York? Why
right.
even do it if you're not
Right.
gonna? I don't know if you want to respond to that. I have a couple other things I wanted
Yeah,
to ask you about.
I get what you mean. I get wanting a larger canvas, a larger scale for the whole thing.
Yeah,
Um, I just I guess personally I just prefer a smaller, more intimate, character-centered story. Um, I think New York City was chosen just because it's different from the first two. If you're going to do another rural setting, it's kind of like we've already had that twice. So there to me wouldn't be much point in doing that. So keeping it intimate with character, but giving it a new setting to me made it feel really fresh and unique from the first two movies. So I liked the choice a lot. I felt that there were several shots are really, these wide shots of the city where the aliens are crawling along the buildings or, they're climbing up buildings as they're chasing characters through buildings and things like that we hadn't seen in the first two movies that were really unique and different and pretty exciting to me, and just visually engaging. So I liked changing up the setting while keeping the intimate kind of formula that the first two movies have. I thought that was actually a smart move. Um, could they have gone bigger? Sure. I mean, they could have definitely done a big, war movie, followed the military, I feel like we've had that though. I feel like that's the typical alien invasion movie is following the scientists and the military trying to, figure it all out and take them all down. So I like that Quiet Place as a franchise thus far has kept it very ground level, focused. Here's the characters, here's what they're doing. It's off from this very small perspective, this big thing happening from a small perspective. I think just makes it kind of stand out. So I liked the choice, even though I get wanting more. I get that. I kind of feel that too a little bit, but I don't know. It worked for me here.
Again, part of it's just the extremes. You had those big
Yeah,
scenes, which the trailer is full of, and then
yeah,
you had these really, really small, quiet moments. And another big point I wanted to make is where are all the people? I mean, I get that they are trying to get the boat, get them on boats and get them off, but you're talking about 8 million people. And after a certain point, you not only don't see any people, you don't see any dead bodies. Did you notice that?
right,
Like
yeah,
they should be dead bodies. And I
right.
felt like there's something missing about
Mm,
call it set dressing or
yeah,
whatnot. But again, in Cloverfield, it would be a mass panic. There'd be, I mean,
mm,
sure, get taken out, and there's obviously more monsters or whatever you want to call them, aliens
hmm
in this film, I guess, compared to Cloverfield, arguably. But I
hmm
just feel like it was just devoid of anything at a certain point, and it just felt like not right, like something was off
Gotcha.
as a result.
Yeah, I think like you're mentioning, budget might have to do with it. Also, rating. They probably don't want an R rating if you have. I don't know what the MPA says about dead bodies. Like you can only have a certain amount. I don't know. I don't know what that is, but that could be a restraint that they had. We want to keep it PG-13, so we get a wider audience
Yeah,
in. So you can't go too extreme with the violence and death. But the budget too. It is a $67 million budget, so it's very low compared to
that is pretty
most alien
modest. Yeah,
invasion movies. I mean,
right.
it's extremely modest, and I I think they did a good job with the budget, that they had and with the constraints that they had.
Yeah, I just think maybe Akron, Ohio would have made more sense because you're going for, I mean, New York City, it's going to be, you're promising epicness. And the
Yeah,
trailer seems to promise that. And
right.
that's,
That's a good
me,
point.
that's what I go for.
Right,
I'm there for the big explosions. And I mean, we
right.
get stuff, we
Yeah,
get some stuff.
sure,
But
sure.
the last point I think I wanted to make about
Hmm.
my impression with it is that I think the aim of the film is poignancy, right? I
Yes,
think they're trying to make a
yes.
story that you can really care about.
Yep.
To me, I think those parts of the film were fine. They kind of felt like an episode of The Walking Dead. Like those are
Okay,
very good episodes. I mean, those it's a very
sure.
good show,
Yeah,
and they're on the road. They're trying to not get eaten or whatnot.
right.
Um, but I just felt like it was too small in
Mm,
what they're
hmm.
trying to show us. And there's large
Gotcha.
stretches where there's one, two people just sitting doing, talking, and
Yes,
it
yes.
felt very slow.
Yeah.
I hate to use the word boring, but there were times where
Mm.
I'm thinking, am I really sitting watching A Quiet Place right now? Because this doesn't feel like a disaster, New York City, devastation kind of film.
Right, right. Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. They definitely went for small scale character drama is first and foremost what this movie is.
Yeah.
Um, maybe I wasn't as disappointed because I kind of feel like that's what the first two are.
They're
They're
just not set in
very
New York City.
that's true. That's true. The setting is different. You're absolutely right about that. But I really feel like those movies do a lot to build character and
Mhm.
to help us understand who this family is. In this movie, who these, two individuals are who kind of are thrown into the situation and build it from there and kind of build the scares off of that. And if you're not connecting with the characters, if you're not interested in the story of the characters, then yeah, the scares aren't going to be there. You're not going to really be concerned about them. You're not going to really, give a hoot about what's going on screen. So to me, all the movies have done that. The first, two movies, I just love that family and want to see them
Yeah.
succeed and survive. And same with
Right.
this. I was really into Lupita Nyong'o's character, her illness and what she's going through. She's, on death's door. Essentially, she's given up. And then
That's
Joseph
the
Quinn,
poignant part
yeah,
is that here she's dying either way. So
right.
what is she gonna do? I equate this to the girl who is deaf in Quiet Place 1 and 2,
Yeah.
and then she's put in this situation where you can't be loud. Like it's a
Yeah,
great
right.
compelling situation. And I feel like that's
Yes,
what they did with her. She's
right.
already possibly a death's door. And now she's faced with everybody's going to be potentially a death's door.
Yes.
So it was poignant. I mean, there
Yeah,
were moments that were decent.
right. Right. Gotcha. Yeah, and Joseph Quinn's character, he's kind of a very frightened guy, he lives in fear.
Right.
And so her and him and their back and forth, I just really connected to it, and I loved the story that
Mm.
they told with those two. The movie's really all about getting a slice of pizza, that's what it's all
Yep, it
about.
sure
It's
is.
it's yeah, I
I
mean,
can, it appeals to me.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Who doesn't love pizza, right? And the whole backstory we get into her with her dad and all that. I just think I thought all that really worked for me. I
Mhm.
really felt something at the end of the film. And so that's probably why I ended up liking it a little more. You mentioned, I think I remember the other thing that you mentioned was the monsters and us not really getting to know a lot more about them. There is a scene where we do actually learn a little more about them. There's a scene where he's chasing the cat and you see that there's a
Mhm.
much larger creature somewhere. I don't know if it's the alpha male or the queen or something like that.
Yeah,
So we do get a little bit more. I get that it's not
a
like
little bit.
revealing everything
Yeah,
about what's going on, but I kind of like
a
that
little
they're just
bit.
kind of hinting and teasing things in each movie, and maybe by like Quiet Place 10, we'll finally figure out what's actually going on here. So I like that. I like that. I like the whole mythology world building stuff. But if that's done too much, I feel like you can lose sight of the characters. And I would much rather have a character story than a big world building story. And maybe we'll get that in the future. Maybe, like I said, in a couple movies, there'll be a movie where it's about the scientists learning about what these creatures are, where they came from, and we'll get all that backstory. Because John Krasinski, I don't know if you've watched any of the bonus features on the first two Quiet Place movies, but he's got it all worked out. I mean, this guy, you can tell, like, he knows where they come from. He knows why
Mm.
they only hunt by sound. He knows all the details of this world. He's worked it all out. So I'm sure he's going to end up revealing all of this, but I think he's doing it very intentionally, very subtly, kind of in the background of these movies as we go on. So, yeah, we'll have to see whenever Quiet Place Part Three comes out. What it's like.
Right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I did want to ask you one more question on it.
Hmm.
I thought too it was a little confusing on the narrative because this is day one, but I counted the movie was slow enough to where I actually paid attention to this. I counted at least 4.5 days that go by in the film. So
Hmm.
why call it? I'm not trying to be nitpicky, but
Right,
why not just call it like quiet place the attack or something like that? Why
right,
call it day one? Because it's not one day. I these
right,
things just
right.
don't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think because it starts on day one, a lot like Quiet Place
Sure.
Part Two, we got to see from their perspective what day one was like. That's the
Yeah.
only way, I guess. Yeah, maybe call it beginnings. That would have been better, or
Right.
origins, or yeah, day
Yeah.
one is
Yeah.
it is a little misleading. You're like, oh, this is all going to take place on the first day, and yeah, it is. You're
Yeah.
right. It is definitely at least 2 or 3 days. You said four. You
I mean,
think it's four?
I counted they were eating 4 day old pizza by the time they got to it.
Right, right.
Hopefully it
Gotcha,
was
gotcha.
refrigerated. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully so. All right. Well, anything else you want to bring up? I mean, I think we've covered most things. Oh, another thing I liked was that Jaimin Hunso was in this, which gives it a little bit of a
Yeah,
connection to
yeah.
part two. Um,
Definitely liked him. Yeah.
yeah, he was great. It'd be kind of cool to follow his. That's the thing about this. A lot like Cloverfield, there's so many
Right.
different characters experiencing this. You could tell so many different stories from different perspectives, and that would be so
Mhm.
interesting. Each movie could be totally different. So I like this world. I hope they explore it more. I'm sure they will, that since it's doing so well. I know, like Krasinski said, he's already planned a part three. And so, yeah, I don't know if they'll do day two. I mean, even though I guess we've already seen day two from a certain point of view. But yeah, they could go anywhere with this story.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of potential here. So I'm definitely curious to see more. I'm sure if part three comes out, you're gonna be in line, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I got to see where they take it. I mean,
Sure.
if especially if Krasinski is involved. Honestly, if he would have been in this film,
Yeah.
all probably would have been forgiven.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I know you're a big fan. Cool. Awesome. Well, great. That's our review of A Quiet Place Day One, now in theaters. Get your tickets as soon as possible. Check it out. And let us know what you think in the comments below if you got to see it. We want to get your reaction, your review to that. Carson and I have a reaction on the channel right now. We also did a longer form review video that'll be out very soon, so make sure you check those out. Now, it is time to jump in to our main topic, which is the best alien invasion movies. Here we go. All right, folks. Well, this is it, our big alien invasion movie list. What we're doing this week is the same thing we did last week. So if you joined us for our 100th episode, we changed the formula up. We just didn't do a top 10 or top 5 ranking like we typically do. We started the first that I'm aware of film draft. So a lot like a sports draft. What we are doing here is we are selecting the movies that we want on our list. So both Bert and I will have separate lists on this episode. Instead of creating a shared list, it's a little more competitive now. It's going to be a lot of fun. Whatever he picks, I can no longer pick. So it's off the board after someone picks it. I've got to scratch it off my list and move on to my next one. But we've got big lists here to choose from. There's a lot of alien invasion movies. Bert, let's talk a little bit about just kind of how we went about choosing our individual lists. What were you thinking when you went into this alien invasion movie list idea?
Oh, and I want to say too more about the draft kind of
Oh yeah,
scenario,
sure.
which is that it's kind of like I'm trying to build my perfect list, and I've got you that may potentially draft a movie that I want to take with me to a desert island or something. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to build my perfect list, and I'm
Yes.
hoping that I can steal all the good ones before you do, and so on. So there'll be some overlap, not entirely,
Right.
but
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a very much more competitive kind of list than what we typically do of just having individual lists or creating a shared list. So yeah,
right,
this is
right.
going to be fun.
Yeah, and we talked. We didn't share our list order or anything, but we discussed how some films could be, for instance, an alien attack on another planet, and so you'll see a little bit that's
Oh yeah.
just outside the box of aliens come down to Earth,
Right.
specifically that. So yeah, it's a little broader.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's the basic idea of alien invasion movies. Is aliens come from outer space, invade Earth, try to take it over, or destroy the human population, or want our resources, or something. There's some kind of an attack that happens. Kind of like a military invasion. If you think about it that way. But there's also the idea of yeah, like you mentioned, humans going to other planets or things like that. There's also, think of something more intimate, like a home invasion. Just one alien comes down to Earth,
Right.
and humans interact with it in some way or something like that. So yeah, there's a lot to choose from in this genre. It's not maybe as narrow as you initially think. A lot of movies could qualify as alien invasion films. So should be a lot of fun to dive into these. Are you ready to get started?
Yeah, and I stayed away from superhero films and because that's kind of their own thing.
Great point. That's why I wore my Avengers Infinity War shirt because yeah, we took comic book films off the list because we would both have Infinity War, we would both have Man of Steel. I mean, there's a lot of great comic book movies deal with alien invasions. It's usually like, why do we need all the superheroes to team up? Well, there's a bunch of aliens coming down. That's a very
Right.
typical comic book thing. So
Yeah,
so yeah,
yeah.
we
We do have other podcasts about that stuff.
tons of other podcasts about comic book superhero movies. So yeah, you can go check those out now. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, here it is, Bert. You get first pick. I got first pick for our big 100th episode, film franchises. So you get first pick. A little jealous, but it's okay. I have a feeling we actually have the same number one. So I'm very curious to see if you have my number one on your number one. Go ahead.
That scares me because I'm afraid you're going to steal my number two if I'm wrong. So at number one, I've got Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh, phew. Okay. Wasn't the same number one. Good. I do have that on my list. It's a little lower, but okay.
Oh,
Great
okay.
pick.
This
Great
is
pick.
yeah, it's like my number seven film of all time or
Oh,
something. I mean,
wow.
it is so cleverly written,
Yeah.
and then everything you see on screen, I think, is exactly how terrifying and accurate an alien invasion, if it could happen, an alien
Right.
invasion film would happen. I'm a huge time travel fan, including ones where you repeat the same day over and over. So that you got that component of it, which is obviously huge. There's tons of built-in humor, and they're not even jokes. It's just situational humor. You've got crews, which just bring such realness and real emotion to these situations. as good or better than pretty much anybody. And we've talked about him many times in the past.
Yes.
He just makes it seem so real and so
Yeah.
intense. And then Emily Blunt too is surprisingly fantastic in it as well. Bill Paxton. I mean,
Yeah.
the action is just very exciting. The creatures feel really scary. The
Yeah.
effects are really good. I just can't say enough about it. We've talked about it before, but yeah, I had to go with that one as my number one draft pick.
Yes, great pick. Doug Liman directed that. He did a fantastic job. And yeah, I think maybe why it was lower on my list is because I first and foremost think of it as a time travel movie more than an alien invasion movie,
Mm,
even though that's both
yeah,
totally tied into the plot. But that's
sure.
maybe why it was a little lower on my list. Cruise is great in that because he's playing a coward. I mean, he's playing a very unique character. He's usually the big hero, like rah-rah hero,
Yep.
leading the charge, but he goes through a great character arc in that film, and
Yes.
his
Yes.
relationship with Emily Blunt is so good. Yeah, great movie. I've watched numerous times, so great pick. All right, I'm glad you didn't take this off the board because this is my number one. It's easily my favorite. It was just kind of a no-brainer when we were doing this list. It's got to be another Tom Cruise movie, War of the Worlds.
No.
That
No. No.
was your number two?
Shoot. I had it one for a while, but then I thought about it and
Wow.
just I went with overall likability.
Sure.
But I mean they're both those are both films that I would say if there are 5-star plus,
Right.
they're both in that group,
Yeah, can I give it
on my
another
all-time
star,
list.
please? Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's Spielberg. I mean, my favorite director ever, remaking a
Yeah.
classic, and then, getting Cruise involved. Dakota Fanning's fantastic in this. It
Hmm.
feels so real. There's so many tense moments that all the stuff in the basement with Tim Robbins is just, you're on the edge of your
Yeah.
seat, that entire sequence.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely had to make the list. Like I said, as soon as I thought of the list, that was the first one that popped in my head. So had to include it. Kaminsky, we've mentioned Janus, his incredible
Janus.
cinematography and
Oh
lighting
yeah.
and the
Yeah.
music, by John Williams and
Yep.
all of it. It just all comes together perfectly into a great movie that I can watch anytime. So yeah, that
Yep.
mid number one.
Yeah. Boy, yeah. And I recently went back and watched the 1953 one. I'd never seen it
Oh,
before.
okay.
And so it's all right. I mean, for its time, probably would have been fantastic, obviously.
Sure.
But it's interesting how much is similar, just right from that opening narration.
Yes.
And then there's scenes, where the aliens coming into the farmhouse in the newer
Yep.
one. There's scenes like that in the original. A
Yep.
lot of similarities. Actually, I was surprised,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I do feel like that Spielberg's does everything better than the original.
Yes, 100%. Totally agree. One of those remakes that surpasses the original for sure. Excellent. Do you want to give us your number two now?
Yeah. So since you took my number two, so I gotta then select a great movie called A Quiet Place, Part One.
Of
A Quiet
course.
Place, or just A Quiet Place.
Right, right. Great pick.
And as you mentioned, I mean, just so good at the family story and for small scale, uh, while still showing some incredible action. This film really nails it. Great music, just very compelling story. So this one's super high. It's on my all-time list too, pretty high up there. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent selection. What a great film. So many great moments, memorable moments. Really rewatchable film too. I've watched it a number of times, and yeah, all
Yeah.
the performances from the young actors to the two adult leads, they're all just fantastic. So can't fault you for it. Excellent choice. All right, great second pick, Bert. My second pick is a film starring uh, my favorite actress of all time, who we've done a whole podcast on. It's Amy Adams in Arrival. Uh,
Ah,
Huge fan of Arrival.
okay.
Man, this one
Wow.
really blew me away when I first watched it. I didn't really know what to expect. This was the first film I saw by Denis Villeneuve, who of
Hmm.
course has now made the Dune movies and Blade Runner sequel, tons of movies I like. And yeah, this one really caught me by surprise. I didn't really know what to expect. The trailers look interesting,
Yeah.
always curious about any kind of alien invasion sci-fi movie, so I checked it out and was really impressed with the filmmaking, the performances, the ending, which is one of those mind-blowing endings that kind of is
Hmm.
very
Hmm.
trippy. I don't
Yeah.
want to spoil
Yeah.
too much, but if you haven't seen it, but very unique sci-fi alien invasion film that really has a
Right.
very emotional message, core to it, and just really enjoyed this movie a lot. And I've enjoyed it a couple times since, and so it had to make the list, and it ended up really high because, again, I just think the quality of the film is really really there. Very unique alien designs. That's something I'm sure we'll bring up a couple times here. Is very strange. It's the whole movie is really about communication. It's really about
Hmm.
it's not really an alien, like an evil alien invasion. They're actually trying to help us, which
Hmm.
is happens sometimes. So yeah, really really like this movie a lot. It's got a very powerful themes and message to it. So yeah, had to make the list.
Nice one. Yeah, I had it on my list too. Boy, I'll tell you, his movies, I feel like I watch them and I don't get them, and so I don't really
Right.
like them. And then the second time I watch them, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm starting to get this. This is really
Yeah.
good.
They're
Same thing happened
deep.
with Dune, you know?
Right. They're deep,
Yeah,
man. They're,
yeah.
they're like you
They're
got to
different.
really think about these movies, which I love because
Yeah.
to me that means rewatch value is there. It's
Yes.
it's kind of
Yes.
like you like them more and more the more you watch them. So yeah, like movies like
Right.
that a lot. So all
Yes.
right, what do you have in your number three spot?
So overall five pick.
Correct.
All right. I'm going with this one. I watched again last night. So good. Oblivion.
Oh, excellent choice. Yes. Also on
Yes.
my list, a little
And
bit lower down, but I'll tell you why in just a second.
okay. Yeah, and not the typical alien invasion film either.
Yep.
But I just have to mention that this Blu-ray has that lithographic lenticular uh picture, so it looks kind of 3D. And so I found this. I didn't know it existed, and I had to snatch that up. I
That is
also have to pick it
cool.
up on 4K, but
Yeah.
Blu-ray does for now.
Is it in 3D or no?
The image on the front is it's one of
But not
those
the movie.
correct. Yeah, that never
Gotcha.
made it
Okay.
to the 3D
Oh, that
formats.
stinks.
So yeah, what a unique picture. Once again,
Yeah.
Tom Cruise.
There
He
he
seems
is.
to like this. And so I from the special features I gleaned that he met with Joseph Kosinski when he was, a lot younger, and he just pitched this idea. And I love the fact that it's a very original thing from one guy. He's got this new concept. That's always a great
Mm.
thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he visualizes it and then he brings it to the screen. And there's a lot of plot twists in this one,
Right.
and things I didn't really see coming the first time.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, this is only the second time I think I've seen the movie,
Oh,
and I was at probably 4.5 stars, and I actually bumped it to five. Everything about
yeah.
this is great. I could mention just a lot of things, but one of the things is the drones. The drones aren't
Oh, yeah.
aliens. That's not the alien part of it per se. It's
Right.
more
Right.
AI.
Yeah.
But with the sound effects and just
Yeah.
the thunderous quality of them,
Right.
uh, watched it with headphones actually, but my headphones
Okay.
have a lot of bass,
Yeah.
and man, they're scary. They may as well
Yeah.
be aliens, and
Right.
that's just one aspect of it that's more
Mm.
alien-like, I guess you could say. But there's a lot more to the alien plot.
Yeah.
Um, they don't give us a whole lot,
Right.
but yeah, just a superb film. Now another 5-star film.
Yeah, excellent choice. Great movie. It is on my list, like I mentioned, it's lower down because I do think of this more as a post-apocalyptic film, but it's
Sure.
definitely an alien invasion movie. I mean, that's why all this happened. And it's, like you
Yeah,
said, kind
yeah,
of vaguely revealed later in the movie, like what exactly happened here and
yeah,
how the whole invasion happened and everything. So that's
yeah.
why it ended up maybe a little bit lower down on mine. But it's such a great movie. The design of everything, those drones, the
Yes.
glass house they live in, the bubble ship he flies
Yeah.
around.
So
It's just
unique.
it
Yeah.
looks so good. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
great. Visually fantastic movie. So yeah, excellent choice.
Yep. Now you're on to six, right?
Yes, six overall pick and my number three slot. That is going to be a classic. I had to go back. I'm a huge fan of classic movies, and the heyday of the 50s B movie was the 1950s. So it had to be The Day the
Yeah.
Earth Stood Still, the
Ah,
1951 version. Not the Keanu Reeves film. The 1951 Day the Earth Stood Still is an all-time classic. I've watched it number of times. Iconic moments in this film. Gort is the robot in this movie who's kind of the assistant of the alien, and He's an iconic character. And there's so many great moments in it. I really like all the performances. I really like the story. It's very clearly an allegory for the Cold War, that was going on back in those days, and
Yeah.
all that. So that's, I think, why this genre kind of really took off in that era, because it was really commenting on, what was happening in the world. And so this movie certainly does that, does it very effectively. Some of the other ones don't do it as effectively, but this one I think really, really works. And so, huge fan of this film. Glad to have it on Blu-ray, and I've enjoyed it a number of times. It's a classic black and white. It's directed by Robert Wise, who directed The
No.
Sound of Music, and
Right.
some other classic. He's kind of one of those guys that can do any genre, kind of like Ron Howard. He can just do it
Hmm.
all. And so, yeah, great filmmaking there. Of course, like I mentioned, it was remade. I didn't care for the remake nearly as much, but it's a classic. So I had to make the list somewhere, and ended up pretty high because just kind of its impact on the genre as a whole. So that's my next pick. Day the Earth Stood Still.
And I
What do
like
you?
the Keanu one. I know you didn't really
Mm,
care for much.
sure. Right. Sure. All right.
Yeah.
What do you have in your next position?
Yeah, and I guess actually the focus really is more about our own pick. It's just we can steal picks from each other if it's
Exactly.
brought up ahead of time. So really, I should be
Correct.
talking about. So this is my number four pick for
Yes,
my top
exactly.
20 that
Correct.
are available on the board. And
Right.
so at number four, I will take Pacific Rim.
Ooh, I just watched this last night. Oh, it's so good.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's on my list. It's a little lower down, but it's a good one. You took it from me, so I can't pick it anymore. But oh
yeah,
well.
yeah. This was this saw this one in the theater and it just really blew me away.
Yeah.
And we talked before about the scale, and this is
Oh,
a Del Toro film, right? And
yep.
if you fail at the scale, it's going to look like two guys in robot costumes fighting, right? So that's got to succeed, and it really does. It's
Yeah.
so impressive,
Right.
and dramatically, I feel like there are moments where it's really good
Mm,
too.
yeah.
So this actually rounds out. This is the last of my five-star films that are in my
Okay.
list.
Okay. Excellent choice. Yeah. Watched it last night with the commentary by Del
Oh,
Toro, and he revealed some really interesting things. It's funny that you mentioned guys in suits, because he was, of course, watching all those old Godzilla
yeah,
movies where guys are in suits, and he specifically had them design creatures and robots so that if this was made in the 50s or 60s, they could put a guy in a suit. Like, it's made so that a person
yeah.
could have played these like in a rubber suit, which I
That's
thought was a
funny.
funny idea. But yeah, what
Yeah,
a
yeah.
great movie. Great cast. It's got some funny moments. It's got some, like you mentioned, intense
Hmm.
dramatic moments. Great action, great cinematography, the lighting, the neon of the
Yeah,
cities, and all that. The whole
right,
underwater
right.
battle at the end is great. So many great
Yeah,
moments. Really enjoy this movie. Could
great
watch it
payoffs.
anytime. Yeah, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. All right, excellent. Well, moving on then to my next pick. It's going to be a throwback to the 50s, but it was not made in the 50s. It is a film that came out in 1999. My brother's favorite movie of all time, The Iron Giant.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, The Iron Giant is a great film. I've enjoyed so many times. It's Brad Bird, the animation director, one of his finest films. He's made so many great movies: Ratatouille, The Incredibles, Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. Great director, and this was his first film, which is incredible to think about as a debut movie.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't make a lot of money, but since it's gained a huge, cult following, and now it's hailed as, one of the best animated movies ever. It's kind of one of those classic boy and his dog stories, but here it's a boy and his alien
Yeah.
robot story, and
Right.
it's a lot of fun. Vin Diesel voicing the giant
Hmm.
does a great job. Jennifer Aniston's in it, Harry Connick Jr. Great voice talent there, and
Yeah.
beautifully animated. Really like the whole look, the whole aesthetic of the 50s. I'm a big fan of, and it
Hmm.
definitely has that kind of, like I said, throwback type of vibe to it, and just tells a really impactful story too. On top of that, so yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely was another one that I thought of when I thought of this list. I thought, as a kind of unique pick, it would work really
Yeah.
well. And there's an extended cut on this Blu-ray. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh.
Uh,
Probably not.
the extended
I
cut
had
is
it on
only
DVD a while back.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah, I like it.
they released this only a few years ago. This
Mm,
they call it the signature edition because it has that
okay.
extended cut. It's got a great documentary on it as well, but it's only about a minute longer, but
Mm.
it kind of reveals the giant's backstory basically of where he
Oh,
came from and
okay.
why he was
Really?
sent here. Yeah, yeah, it's a really cool,
Okay.
very
I
short
like that
sequence.
stuff.
It's
Okay.
not no dialogue, you know, it's all kind of like you just
Mm.
watch it, but you kind of go, oh, okay, so that's what the whole thing was about. So yeah, if you can seek it out and find it, I would highly recommend it. All right, Bert, we're on to your next pick. What is this, fifth overall now?
This is my fifth
Or
pick.
fifth, your
Uh-huh.
fifth pick, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm surprised it fell this far. So I've got Signs at my fifth
Oh
pick.
man, I was
I know,
just
I
about to
know.
get signs on my list. Oh, here
The
it is.
thing
It's
is,
sitting right here. Look, I have
oh
it.
no, I stole it. I
I
stole
stole
it.
it, man.
The thing is, 95% of this movie is just 5 star. There's just a little bit about it that I don't quite put it in my 5 star because, but what it nails, it does superbly. Is so again, kind of like A Quiet Place. This was A
Yeah,
Quiet Place before, A Quiet Place came along,
right, right.
and I feel like did
Yeah,
it slightly better,
sure.
but almost just as good. I mean, Signs,
Yeah.
the idea of taking this family, and they're already going through some stuff, and you
Mm,
totally feel like you're, you know, you know, pulled in with this family and dealing with this while they are. And Shyamalan really scores here in his ability to reveal very little
yeah,
until he has to.
right.
Um, and very scary. I
Yeah.
saw this in the theater too, and I can remember this audience just shrieking, when they're like the cornfield. Cornfield is always
Oh
scary,
yeah.
right? In horror
Right.
movies, and there's some great scenes there. And I
Yeah.
remember when this movie came out, they'd already debunked crop circles.
Right.
And so I thought this was going to be terrible. I'm like, why is he making a movie about crop circles? We already know it's already been
Right.
debunked. This is how they
Yeah.
do it. But then he points out in the movie that they've debunked it, but that
Yes.
he kind of works that into it so that he doesn't
Yeah.
ignore the fact that it's been,
Hmm.
somewhat debunked. So that was
Yep.
brilliant too.
Yes.
Great acting, great characters, a lot of
I
actors I love in this movie. Yeah, just great
mm,
stuff.
I agree. Yeah, it's probably my favorite Mel Gibson movie. I think
Oh,
it might be his best performance he's ever given. It's just so
good one.
raw, you know, and just
Yeah, yeah,
real and Joaquin Phoenix as well. The Culkin kid, you
yeah.
know, one of the
Yep.
Culkin kids is in there, and Abigail Breslin.
Kieran, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're all so good. They're all so
yeah.
good. And like you're mentioning, the slow reveal, like the very,
Mm,
intentional like build of that film it has and the way it builds suspense, all of it is just so, so well done. So yeah, like I said, it was about to be picked on my list. So you took it from me. Um, all right, I'll jump into my next one. By the way, we're only doing 20 of these in each of our lists. So
right.
um, that's our limit here. My next pick, it would be my fifth pick as well. It is classic from John Carpenter,
Oh,
starring Russell Crowe, or I'm sorry,
mm,
Kurt Russell. It's The Thing,
yeah,
and The
yeah,
Thing is so awesome. This movie is scary, it's intense,
yeah,
the incredible effects work. I still
yeah,
can't get over how good the animatronics and puppetry and all of that looks. It looks so real, totally
yeah.
believable.
Crazy for
Uh,
its time.
yeah, in 1982, it's like, how did they pull
Yeah,
this
no
off?
CG.
No
Yep.
CG assistance at all. And
Hmm.
so yeah, this is another one where it's one of my favorite horror movies ever because again,
Hmm.
the suspense builds, the paranoia. This is another Cold War film where it's like paranoia is everywhere. Who do you trust?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what the whole movie's
Right,
about.
right.
And the setting of Antarctica is so unique. It's not anywhere in the United States or Europe or where most of these
Yeah,
movies would be
yeah,
set.
right, right.
It's Antarctica. It's this, wasteland essentially where nothing can
Hmm.
survive. And so, that adds that extra element of they're already trying to survive the elements of Antarctica, and now they have to deal with this alien being that can transform
Yep.
into any form. Just crazy, crazy movie, wild, intense,
Yeah.
great, great film. I think it's John Carpenter and might be even my favorite Kurt Russell movie. It's so, so well made. So yeah, that made it into the list.
That is a good. Yeah, I enjoy that one. I like the newer one too. That both have
Okay.
these very just disturbing, off-putting creatures, so it's kind of hard to
Yes.
watch at times.
Right.
And then of course the newer one goes all in on the CGI. Well, I'm probably not all
Mm,
in. I mean, there's probably
yeah,
some practical.
sure.
So it gets even crazier to the limit that you're willing to accept the CGI.
Right, sure. I still haven't watched that version. I need to watch it. I still
Oh, you
haven't
haven't?
seen it. No,
Oh,
no.
okay.
Yeah, so
It's
I wanna
disturbing,
check it
but
out. Right.
you should. You should.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure I will one of these days. All right, Bert, we're on to your number six pick.
Okay, I feel like I'm gonna steal another one here. Maybe it is Cloverfield.
Oh, yeah, you did. You took
Oh,
another one from mine. Yeah, I mean it was lower on my list for reasons I'll talk about in just a second. But yeah, it was definitely one
yeah,
that I
yeah.
thought a lot about.
Right. I remember something you told me about it. I'll let you say that.
Okay.
But this one, oh goodness, another theater experience. I saw this twice in the theater, and despite some somewhat annoying shaky cam at times, the film brilliantly allows the camera to focus just long enough on these creatures, and you just totally feel like you're on the run with these kids
hmm
through New York City. And again,
Yep.
I referenced it before, but like I've been to New York City. You
Okay.
feel like, and they probably filmed it there. You feel
Yeah.
like you're on the streets of New York.
Yep.
They point the camera and you see all the buildings or the classic landmarks, and they're running and they're
Right.
dodging. And then you got subway scenes with these even more terrifying
Mm.
situations. So great. And maybe one of the scariest movies I've ever seen, honestly. So as far as scary
Yeah.
alien invasion ones, this one is one of the best at that. Just so
Yes.
well made
hmm
and not perfect. I think I knock it a half star because of the shaky cam. Like it's a little bit
Okay.
too much sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
even still,
Yeah.
it's a tremendous movie. And again, 4.5 stars.
Yeah.
It's everything else about it is terrific. Even how the aliens come here. I didn't find out about that until I checked the internets and that kind of
Right.
thing, and
Right.
then went back and watched it. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much fun.
It is. It's a great movie. I vividly remember seeing this in theaters. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen. I'd never seen a found footage movie. It just really
Yeah,
blew me away, and it's stuck with me because it is still a favorite of mine. Yeah, I guess I give the shaky cam a pass because it's kind of comes with the territory of found footage. I feel like,
sure. Yeah, yeah.
so it makes sense, is what I'm saying.
It
So,
does. Yeah.
um,
It helped it
but
in some ways.
I agree. I agree. Absolutely. Add some intensity and realism to it. And
Yeah.
the performances are all so good from all the actors, just playing everything so believably and realistically.
And
Great
unknown
movie.
actors too. That was great too.
Exactly. Yes. I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
Hmm.
So yeah, excellent pick. I think of it more as a monster movie, a giant monster movie than an
Hmm.
alien movie. Like you're mentioning, they don't really tell you and like you said, there is that scene where, it falls out of the sky at the, end of the movie. You kind of see oh wait, there it is. So that is
Yep.
cool. So it definitely qualifies 100%. But again, when I think of alien invasion movie, I don't necessarily my mind doesn't jump to that one instantly. You know what I
Really.
mean?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's probably why it ended up a little bit lower on my list. But great
Yeah.
pick, great pick. Can't fault you for it. Going ahead with my number six pick on my list, taking it off the board. It is another film from 1982, same year that The Thing came out. A very different alien invasion movie came out. It's called E.T. the
Mm.
Extraterrestrial. Basically the opposite of The Thing. It's like this alien's here to help you. He's friendly. He doesn't want to murder you.
Right.
But some people find him just as creepy, though. That's kind of funny thing. A lot of people are kind of freaked out by the way E.T. looks, but I've always thought he was a pretty cute little guy. I've always liked this
Mm.
movie. Really enjoy the child actors. Spielberg is kind of known for being the best with child actors. Jurassic Park and War of the Worlds, like we mentioned earlier. He just does a great job getting on their level and getting great performances out of them. And this is no exception. Henry Thomas, who I don't know if you've seen his audition tape. It's one of the best audition tapes I've ever watched.
Oh, really?
It's absolutely fantastic.
Huh.
It's so good. And of course, young Dakota or
Drew
Drew
Barrymore.
Barrymore. Yes, there we
Hmm.
go. She's fantastic in this, her first movie. And so, yeah, just very, again, believable performances. It does something interesting that I don't know if everyone knows this, but as I've watched interviews with Spielberg, he very intentionally shot this movie all from the kid's perspective, at least for like the first
Mm,
half or two-thirds of the movie. You don't see any
gotcha.
adults' faces other than the mom.
Really?
So
Oh,
yeah, all of the other adults are shot like from the neck down,
yeah.
which is really interesting because they're all, chasing after ET and all these things. And, you
Yeah,
know,
right,
the
right.
teacher in the classroom, you don't, see his face and
Oh,
different things like that. So
huh.
very clever, just kind of the way he shot
Yeah,
it
yeah,
from the child's perspective, which is, what the
yeah.
movie's all about. And of course, it deals with loss and grief and all these, important themes that, the characters are going through and iconic shots, the moon shot and, all these different things that really just stand out in my mind. The musical score, another fantastic score from John Williams, greatest of all time. So, yeah, I had to make the list. So it ended up right there. All right, Bert, we're moving on now to your number 7 pick.
Okay, and that's where I've got The Abyss by James Cameron.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And
yeah.
in a Pacific Rim kind of way, they're the aliens are there, but they don't really explain, how they get there.
Right.
And they're below the surface, to
Mm,
start with at least.
right.
And this is a film that honestly, it was a five-star film for a long time. I watched it
Mm,
again recently. I didn't like it quite as much.
hmm.
I almost feel like maybe it needed a little raw or cut, like an
Mm,
R-rated feel to
yeah.
it a little more. It feels a
Okay.
little too, I mean, it gets very intense, obviously, at
Yeah.
times,
Right.
but also at times it gets a little too happy, I guess. I don't know why I
Yeah.
feel that way
Sure.
about
Hmm.
this one, but in any case, I love the stuff with Michael Biehn and
Yeah.
but Ed Harris, his performance in this is fantastic. Goes all in as he
Yeah.
always does.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio is
Mm,
great. The two of them play off each other very well, and I feel like
yeah.
they're like a couple that split and that kind of thing. And
Right.
there's
Right.
some great dramatic moments, and it's all filmed underwater for real, and it's
Yeah.
insane. No other director would probably try this. And the making of is as interesting as the film, frankly, because you know what I mean. The
Yeah.
dangers of doing that kind of stuff, much like Cameron
Definitely.
did with Titanic, a lot of
Hmm.
crazy stuff. So
For
it's just a
sure.
very enjoyable drama. And I should mention too, and I'm sure you already know this, the extended version is the only one to watch
Mm,
because when I saw this in the theater, thought it was pretty kind of dumb. I was like, what's the point of like, what is the point of the the ending,
right.
And it's because there's an entire section removed where they're talking to the aliens and that's all taken out. And so when it's
Yeah.
back in there, it makes perfect sense and just
Right.
yeah, great all around fun alien action film.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a good pick. Not my favorite James Cameron movie. I've seen it twice.
Hmm.
Uh, Technically, it's fantastic. The performances are good. I don't know, for whatever reason, I just don't connect with it necessarily.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
definitely recognize, that it is a good movie. It's just, I guess, maybe lower on my James
Gotcha.
Cameron rankings, I guess you would say. But
Yeah.
good pick,
Gotcha.
solid pick. Um, I'm gonna go with one that's, I guess, what some people call guilty pleasure. I never feel guilty about watching or liking movies, but it's one that I've defended on the podcast, on our Defending Bad
Uh,
Movies podcast.
oh,
It's Cowboys and Aliens.
oh, okay.
Uh,
All right. It was decent.
Cowboys,
I thought it was decent.
I have a blast watching this movie. Every
Yeah.
time I put it in, I just have such a great time. It's, of
Okay.
course, Harrison Ford, my favorite actor of all time,
Yeah. Yeah.
with Daniel Craig. So he's playing off
Right.
James Bond again after he played off James Bond in Last Crusade, Sean Connery's James Bond.
Hmm.
He's playing with another James Bond actor much later in his
Right.
life. Um, and Olivia Wilde and Sam Rockwell. Just the whole cast I really like. Jon Favreau's direction I think is solid. The action is really fun. It's got a great
Hmm.
score. What I like about it too is the movie starts off, it's just a Western. I'm a huge fan of Westerns. And it's just like a
Hmm.
Western. And then all of a
Right.
sudden the aliens come in. It's not like a alien invasion movie from the beginning. It's like they build
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
that in a really cool
Right.
way. And just there's no movie like that. There's no Western sci-fi crossover
Yeah.
because it does sound
Yeah.
ridiculous. I get it. Like the whole premise, the whole idea sounds like there's got to be a comedy, right? But they play it
Snakes on a
totally straight.
plane
Yeah,
or
right,
something like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I love how they play it straight. And it's like, if this happened, what would it be like? And it's just kind of funny to me that that's never been a thing. Like, why don't we get alien invasion movies set like, during the Revolutionary War or something like that. It would be kind of fun, I think. Why not?
You're right. That hasn't really been tapped. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So anyways, aliens only found out about us, I guess, in the past, 50 to 60
Yeah.
years. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, yeah, that's just a fun one. I really enjoy watching. And so it had to make the list somewhere. So it ended up pretty high because again, I just get a lot of entertainment out of it.
I probably should rewatch that one. I thought it was decent when I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. All right, Bert, we're on to your next pick, which is your number 8 in your list.
And it's the one on my list I'm sure you'll dislike the most, and
Okay.
that's The Mist.
Oh no. The Mist made your top 10?
Oh
Oh
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Okay.
Talk about guilty
Okay.
pleasure. I just
Right.
enjoy it so much, despite the infamous ending, which I
Sure,
too do
sure.
not like. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a 4-star film. If the ending was different, it would be 5. That's how much I enjoy this. It
Okay.
is more of a monster film, but it does. I mean, the
Right, sure.
creatures are very, very alien-like.
Oh yeah.
I've read the short story. I don't think Stephen King states, where they came from either. It's a short story,
Mm,
but it's not explained. But
mhm.
they are very, very alien-like creatures. A lot of them are just like big bugs and stuff too,
Right,
though.
right.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of a mixed bag, right? But that
Yeah.
that warehouse scene where the tentacle comes through, like we get some really
Yeah.
fun stuff, and it's
Yeah.
schlocky and
Uh-huh.
almost like a 50s movie. I told you there's that black
Right.
and white version you can watch
Yeah. Yeah,
too,
I want to see that.
which by the way, you can just dial down your color and you get
Oh, that's
kind
a
of the
good
same
point.
thing.
Yeah, right, right. Sure.
But yeah, I've just enjoyed this one so many times over the years. Yeah, that's why it's this high.
Yeah, look, I got to admit, it is a fun movie, up until that ending. It's just one of those movies where the ending kind of
Right.
ruins it for me, I guess, a little bit. But
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
time I watch
Yeah.
it, I'll know when to stop. When they drive off
Yeah.
in the car, just hit stop. There's the end, the great ending.
That's where the book ends. The
Oh,
story
really?
ends
Oh,
there. They
yeah,
don't,
that's right.
yeah,
You
they
mentioned
don't
that.
have the same ending in the book. Yeah.
Yeah, the director wanted to take it another level up, I guess. I don't know. Um,
Oscar attention is what he was looking for. So,
Makes sense. Makes sense. Gotcha. All right. Okay, well, moving on then to my number 8 pick in my list. I think
yes.
it's the most recent film on my list, 2022's Nope. Jordan
Mm,
Peele.
shoot.
Oh, do you have that on there?
Yeah, a little further down, but yeah,
Okay.
not very far.
Yeah, Nope to me was one of those films that kind of, again, watching it in the theater was just such an experience. I mean, it was the first film of his that I'd seen in the theaters. I'd seen Get Out and Us on Blu-ray, but I'm glad this was the first because this is his biggest film, certainly. The scale of it is much larger, even though we're dealing with limited amount of human characters.
Right.
It's a huge kind of canvas he's painting on. I think it's the first one he shot in IMAX. A lot of the scenes in
Oh,
IMAX, and the 4K actually has the IMAX sequences, so the aspect ratio changes on your TV,
oh,
which is always kind of cool to see. Um, but yeah, great film, so unique, a unique kind of flying
mhm.
saucer film.
Yeah,
Where I won't spoil anything, but the flying saucer, it's like this is a very different kind of flying saucer, and
right.
the way he shoots it is just so good. It has
Hmm.
kind of Western vibes, because they're on a farm, a lot of horseback riding and stuff like that, and it kind of deals with the film industry in an interesting way, and has a lot of
Hmm.
layers to it. The story is kind of
Yeah,
and
yeah.
very interesting in that way. I really like all the performances in it as well, and it's one that's just very memorable, a very memorable movie that I really really have enjoyed a couple of times since it came out, and so yeah, that's where it ended up. All right, Bert, we're on to your number 8 now. What do you have there? Or 9? So you're
Actually, I'm on
9.
9. Yeah, this
You're on
is my
9. Yep.
9 pick.
Yep. That's right.
And that is where I'm going to go. I'm going to take The Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt.
Ooh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, rewatch this one again. And
Okay.
honestly, this probably should be higher on my list because it's really a great story between a father and his daughter,
Mm,
and very touching, actually.
yeah.
And then there's some really great action, and then
Hmm.
there's some decent action.
Right. Yeah.
And I like all the alien stuff, and kind of a unique way that it's presented too, as far as how they interact with the aliens. I'll just say that
Yes.
much.
Yes.
And so, yeah, just all around very good. It doesn't do everything quite as good as some of the films we talked about before, but
Hmm.
I thoroughly enjoy it. This might end up even higher next time I watch it. Really, really like it.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid movie. I've only seen it once, but I remember enjoying it
Hmm.
for the most part. Like you said,
Yeah.
some of the action doesn't hit all the way, you know, so it's kind
Yeah.
of okay with the action, but I did quite like the story, like you're mentioning the father-daughter dynamic. It's
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
time travel and alien invasion movie at the same time,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's kind of a
Right.
cool idea. But
Yeah.
yeah, solid pick, solid pick. All right, moving on to my number nine, which I'm a little surprised you haven't had this on your list yet. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to steal this from
Oh
you
no.
as well. It's got to be District 9.
Oh, I had
Uh,
that two down from this
oh,
one.
really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, District 9, it's great because it's kind of found footage-y, right? It's kind of like
Yeah.
it's more
Very much. Yeah.
documentary style, I guess you would say. Where, they're going around, talking to the aliens. This alien ship just randomly shows up, this time over South Africa. That's another thing I appreciate about this movie. It's not like New York or Washington, D.C. or L.A. or, one of the
Hmm.
typical cities. It's South Africa. So we get it hovering over South Africa, and they're kind of aliens are malnourished and on the verge of extinction. So they're put into these slums, and it's very fascinating, very great story. Obviously, has a lot to do with apartheid in South Africa
Yep.
and that
Yeah,
whole
exactly.
real
Brilliant.
life event. So yeah, Peter Jackson produced it. Neil Blomkamp directed it. Still think it's his
Mhm.
best movie, even though I kind of like Elysium. I kind of like Chappie. I like those movies more than most people, but this is easily his best, just because of the unique way it's shot. Charlton Copley's performance in it is absolutely wonderful, and what he goes
And he's
through in the
from there.
movie. He is, yeah, that's right. He's South African, just like Neil Blomkamp is. Yeah, I think they
Yeah.
knew each other.
Yeah.
I don't know if from film school or something, but
Mm.
they just did a great job making that movie. Very different
Yeah.
type of film,
Nice.
and one that I've enjoyed several times. Unique alien designs too. I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the design, and I like just again the whole premise of it is so different from your
Yeah.
typical alien invasion movie. So yeah, had to put that one in there. All right, so I took another one from you, Bert, but what do you have in at number 10, rounding out your top 10?
Okay. And my last one, my top 10 is Transformers: Age of
Oh,
Extinction.
okay, okay.
And we we had a podcast about this, and this
We
was at my
sure did.
top. I had to include Transformers somewhere
Oh yeah,
because they are
sure.
aliens that come to our planet.
Yep.
And this is the one I like the best. I mean, I do really like Bumblebee. I like Rise of the Beast.
Mm,
They're also probably about the same, probably all about 4 stars.
okay.
The thing is, the entire series, I have the entire series,
Mm,
and they range from 3 to 4 stars. None of them really get up to the 4.5, 5 star for me, but
hmm
I feel like Age of Extinction is the most well-rounded action film. It doesn't
mm.
necessarily make a lot of sense, but
Makes more
and I
sense
like
than
Mark
the last
Wahlberg in
night,
it.
though.
That is true. That is very strange. That one is very, that's probably the only one that I actually don't like,
Yeah,
as we talked
yeah.
about before. So,
Right,
yeah, I
right.
had to include one of the Transformers one, and I could also include Rise of the Beast or Bumblebee. Those are both really good too, but I picked this one.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm a little surprised you didn't go with Dark of the Moon, because I know we both
That
enjoyed
one's good
Dark of the
too.
Moon quite a bit. And
Yeah, that one's up there too. Yeah,
yeah, I just I like the human characters in Dark of the Moon better than Age of Extinction, I guess, is what
really.
it
Okay.
boils down to, I think, for me.
Okay.
So yeah, but solid choice. Transformers, I mean, yeah, those are fun, action driven kind of popcorn movies that
Yeah.
always will entertain.
Yeah.
Um, all right, cool. So we're moving on now to my number 10. That is going to be an 80s cult classic, another one from John Carpenter. It's They Live.
Oh.
They Live is one of these very schlocky B movies from the 80s that is just silly, over the top, and fun. Wrestler Rowdy Roddy Piper stars as the hero of the film, who has to put on these special sunglasses to see who's an alien and who's not. This one, the
Oh,
aliens have
right.
already invaded, and so
Yeah.
we don't know that they've already taken over, and he's there
It's
to
like
kind
Free
of
Guy.
kind of like Free Guy a little bit. Yeah, definitely. Free
Yeah.
Guy definitely took a page out of their book here. And so
Huh.
yeah, it's a lot of fun though. You know, I don't know what the budget was. It had to be very small because it's all basically one location, you
Mm,
know, one city that it's all taking
yeah.
place in, and but it's just a fun movie. Very, again, one of those kind of very layered types of stories, very anti-authoritarian type of film that I'm very into. And so, yeah, I had to make a list somewhere because it's one that's just, I just have a smile on my face while I'm watching this because it's just so kind of, again, silly and over the top, but fun and actually has a kind of an interesting story to it. Um, also has one of the longest fist fights in movie history. I think it goes on for like
Really?
over 5 minutes. Keith David
You don't hear
and
that?
Roddy Piper get
Yeah.
into it.
Oh yeah, because of
Yeah,
the nature of their career. Yeah, you don't hear
right.
too much about fist fights in alien invasion films too much.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's where They Live ended up. Bert, we're bouncing back to you with your number 11 pick.
All right. So now we're into 11 my 11 pick. I've got Men in Black, the first one.
Ooh, great movie.
Lots of fun. I saw this accidentally in the theater because I showed up for a movie and they said, "Oh, we're not playing that because we're premiering this movie called Men in Black," and I get in for free,
Oh,
and it was quite a treat.
great. Yeah,
And so back in the day, yeah, and just very creative and constant I guess aliens are constantly coming and going in this one, and sometimes they cause problems, sometimes they don't. Could be a commentary on uh parts of the world. I don't know.
sure.
Um, but anyway, yeah. So just loads of comedy. I mean, this is a comedy. This is
Mm,
just laughs from start to finish. Will
yeah.
Smith, that was he was at his peak at that time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's pretty much what I got to say about it. It's just a great, fun, funny alien invasion or alien film, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it counts as alien invasion because you have the cockroach guy who's kind of
Yeah,
you see him
yeah.
crash land at the farm, and you know that
Oh,
whole great
sure.
scene
Yeah,
plays out. So yeah, it definitely
yeah.
qualifies. I have this on my list little bit lower down,
Ah,
but it's one that I've enjoyed many times because it is just so funny and it's so well made. I mean, really, the way it's shot, the way it's edited, the music,
yeah.
direction,
The
performance. I
music.
mean,
Yeah.
all of it just works so well. So I've got this at 4.5 stars. Yeah, this is a fantastic film. So yeah, excellent choice. All right, we're gonna move on to my number 11 or my number 10. Yeah, because that was your
Yeah.
11. My 10,
Wait. No, this will be
right?
your 11
No,
now.
this will be my 11. You're right. Yes. It
Yeah.
is my 11. Sorry. It's another one that's kind of one of those very satirical films, much in the same vein as They Live. It's Starship Troopers.
Oh, okay.
Paul Verhoeven directed this and just he did such a great job. I love it because it's such a heavy satire. I mean, he's like laying it on thick here. You know,
Right.
the performances
Right.
are very soap opera-y, you know, so he's kind of like making fun of, you know, all these like teen romance type films. All the
Yeah.
actors are too
Yeah.
old for their parts, you know. Yeah, so they just do a great job, you know, with this kind of over the top. That's what Verhoeven does. He kind of takes everything over the top, you know, RoboCop and all these things to kind of poke fun at, you know, stuff that you know, is going on in our world. And this one kind of takes on the whole military industrial complex and interventionism and all the rest of it. So it's just great. It's very well made. I mean, as far as the action is super fun to watch and the effects are great. You know, it's kind of early day CGI, but it holds up pretty well. And you know, another one where there's kind of a unique design for the aliens, which I'm always looking for as well. So I've enjoyed that one a number of times. So it made it on the list. It's one where again, we're the invaders, not the creatures. So a little bit of a
Right.
flipping on its head, the genre there. So all right, so that was my number 11. Bert, we're on to your number 12.
Okay. Well, and that is where I've put Avatar 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Way of Water.
Yeah.
Great one.
Yeah. Way of Water. Yeah.
Hmm.
And thought about putting the first Avatar on there. I think I do like
Yeah.
two a little better.
Yeah, me too.
And again, not your typical. I mean, I guess a lot of these do find their own niche and a way to present the material, but
Right.
this one especially, I guess.
Yeah.
And again, Cameron, I mean, he tries to. If I mean, a lot of times you wonder if he needs to break new ground like he does, but he's going to
Right.
spend loads of time and effort trying
Mm.
to. And I feel like he
Yeah.
does, especially with the
Oh yeah.
first Avatar
Oh
and
yeah.
this second one too. I mean, obviously. You mentioned the technical stuff that Cameron
Mm,
does,
hmm.
pretty much like no other. I mean, Spielberg is obviously, perhaps maybe the greatest director ever, and almost feel like he maybe is a little more efficient because
Mm.
he would not invest 10 years,
Yeah,
and you know what I mean. I feel like there's maybe a
right.
lot of extra that Cameron does that he doesn't need to, like when he went
Yeah,
to film the Titanic, like he dove himself like 50 times or
right.
something, and but in any case, yeah, it's a very enjoyable film.
Mm.
Good family story. The animation's fantastic. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, absolutely breathtaking film. Very, very well made. So yeah, excellent choice. We're gonna go now with one for my number 12 that is based on a book that I read. It's one of those where when I was homeschooled, I was like, you can't go see the movie until you've read the book. That was like my mom's rule. So
Ah,
ended up reading a lot of movies, books based on movies or movies based on books.
oh,
And this one is called Ender's Game.
oh,
Came out back in 2013. Another one with Harrison Ford. So
yeah.
he's great in this. Viola Davis, Ben Kingsley, Haley Steinfeld, Abigail Breslin, and Asa Butterfield all do a great job in this. It's a very, again, a unique type of an alien invasion movie where it's like the aliens are going to invade, so we've got to invade first. It's kind of one of those types of
Mm,
films, and
okay,
it's all about the kind of next generation, training the next generation to prepare for the big, alien conflict. And
okay.
so
Yeah, yeah.
it's really, really well made, though. Very unique story. Um, some twists and turns happen in it that you don't really see coming, which is really, kind of makes it even more engaging and entertaining, and has a great ending. Ender's Game has a great ending, as it should. So very, very well made film. I remember reading the book and just really liking it, and then to me the movie really held up and did it justice. So highly recommend it.
Nice.
You haven't seen that one?
Haven't seen that one yet. No.
Okay, yeah, you got to check it out. All right, Bert, on to your number 13.
And that's where I'm putting Independence Day, the film pictured behind me.
That was
Um,
like two away from picking that. So
oh, sorry about that.
thanks.
It's mine.
I
Uh,
watch this every year.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, every year
yeah.
on
It's
Independence Day. This is
so
my
much
go-to
fun.
movie.
Right, right. This probably might be the only film I saw 3 times in the theater, and I
Wow.
was just so impressed because CGI had just sort of started, but this
Yeah,
one really pushed it. And then on
right.
top of that, you had all of these great miniature sets with,
Mm,
explosions and cars
yeah,
flying all over the place. I mean, the
yeah.
trailer, I mean, to that point was just the most amazing trailer I'd ever seen.
Right.
And so there's, I mean, it is a bit, this one's a bit schmaltzy too at times. Sort of the over the top speech, and the president's intimately involved with like calling the shots on the attacks, but I mean,
Yes.
yeah, there's just so much fun to be had with it.
Yeah, I agree. That's the thing is it doesn't take itself too seriously, which is why I let all that
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
go because it's not trying to be like
yeah,
this uber
yeah,
serious type of film. Yeah, it's a lot of
yeah,
fun to watch. And like you're mentioning, the blending of all those effects, the miniatures and the CG and all of it works so well. And yeah,
yeah,
Bill Pullman, he might be my favorite movie president. I mean, him and Harrison
yeah.
Ford and Air Force One are right up there.
He's great. But honestly, Jeff Goldblum really makes the movie. I mean,
Oh yeah, he's great in that too. And I
yeah.
gotta say, I like Cousin Eddie in there as well as the
Oh,
the
sure, yeah,
pilot.
yeah.
He's
Just
he's tons of
it
fun
gets a bit
too.
zany. Yeah,
It does, but it's fun. It's so entertaining.
yeah,
You kind of just let all that go
right.
because it's just you're having so much fun with it. So
Yeah.
good pick. You took another one from my list, so I've got to
Mm.
change things up here. But I think the next one I'm going to
Regroup.
go with is another Spielberg because he's so interested in the he's about to make another UFO movie. That's his next
Oh,
thing
I
he
think
has
you told
lined
me about
up.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Emily Blunt supposedly is going to be in it, so
Yeah.
really looking forward to it. But had to go with his original UFO movie, which is Close Encounters of the Third
Oh, yeah.
Kind, made
Yeah.
in 1977. This film definitely broke new ground in that genre.
Mm.
When that genre, kind of went away after it was so popular in the 50s, and it kind of, there weren't as many movies in the 70s about, aliens and stuff like that. But this and Star Wars kind of both brought that whole genre back, and this one
Yeah.
took a very grounded approach. Richard Dreyfuss, I think this is one of his best performances. He's really, really good in this all the way
Hmm.
throughout it,
Yeah.
and the effects are really good because again, it's pre-CGI days. And I just feel it
Yeah.
holds up so well, all the practical effects and lighting and different things that they achieved there. Of course, again, the score from John Williams, where the score in this movie literally plays into the story of how you communicate with these aliens
Right.
is through the music, which
Yeah.
is such
Yeah.
another unique idea. So, yeah, really like this one. It has several cuts. This is a 30th anniversary Blu-ray. It's got the special edition and a director's cut as well as a theatrical cut. So it's got a few different versions of the movie. One in which you get to go inside the ship. In the theatrical cut, you don't get to see that. And
Oh.
I kind of like the mystery. I
Huh.
mean, what we get in the special edition is cool, but I kind of like keeping it mysterious a little bit. But it was fun to see kind of
Yeah.
what they decided to go with there. So yeah, if you can seek it out, I would definitely recommend checking it.
Yeah. Since that movie, I now eat mashed potatoes with my bare hands.
Absolutely, yes. And make it into a little mountain first and
I never
the whole
knew.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Good stuff. All right, going to move on now to Bert, your number 14 on your list.
It is a film called Pixels.
Oh, I still haven't seen this.
Okay. Yeah. This film is way better than it should be. Um, Most of Sandler's films are just okay, I'll
Sure.
say. But this one impresses. It's surprisingly
Mm,
funny.
mm,
The alien stuff is definitely very unique because they're
yeah.
these pixelated characters like Pac-Man and things like that
Right,
are
right.
attacking Earth.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I wish you could see it in 3D, but
Mm.
it's there's quite a few laughs and stuff. The characters are great, so great cast.
Excellent. Good pick. Um, I'm gonna go with another more recent one, although the franchise has been around for a while. I'm gonna go with Prey. Prey, of course, is part of
Okay,
the
yeah, that's on my
Predator.
list.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah,
Further
part
down, yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, part of the Predator franchise, which has been around since the 80s. And it's my favorite one. It really is. Every time I watch it, I like it more.
Mm,
It's very different. It's very focused film. And I think the action in it is really good. As much as I like that first one, I like the setting of this one, I think, better. Again, another one where it's like, let's go back to like the 1700s and do an alien invasion movie. So that was really cool, and I like all the actors in it are very believable. It's a very authentic feeling film. One about the Native Americans and their whole kind of society you get a glimpse into as well. So
yeah,
just the
right.
different elements of it that make it stand out to me made it so that I had to put it on the list somewhere. So that's where it ended up.
Okay.
All right, Bert, now we're on to your number 15, coming down towards the end of our list now. What do you have there?
This is definitely more of a horror alien film. It's a film called Skyline from
Hmm.
2010. Have you seen this?
I have not seen that one. No, I remember hearing about
Okay.
it though. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's aliens come down and attack Earth, and we follow characters that are in a high rise in
Hmm.
LA.
Okay.
And the it doesn't want to give anything away, and you probably forget by the time you watch it. I'll just tell you. But the aliens, I mean, right from the beginning,
Yeah.
it starts off immediately with the attack, and they shine this beaming light into the windows, and if you look at the light, you get pulled out of the building and taken up
Oh,
to their
wow.
ship. And
Okay.
then before too long, too, there's creatures on the ground, aliens on the ground attacking people and stuff. It's
Wow.
pretty, like I say, it's more horror like.
Right.
Um, but it's just a lot of I guess exciting alien attack stuff that's
Hmm.
very much up in your face.
Right.
Less so about the story. I mean, you get to know the characters a little bit. It
Yeah.
stars a guy, Eric Balfour,
Hmm.
and I saw him in the show 24. That's really the only thing I know him
Oh,
from, but
okay.
mostly unknowns.
Hmm.
David Zayas, who was in um, the Dexter show, the show
Hmm.
Dexter,
Hmm.
and Donald Faison, who
Oh,
was
yeah,
in
I know
Remember
him.
the Titans.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so
Okay.
there's a few guys probably recognize, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's just it's good.
Yeah.
Nothing excellent, but you get to see
Okay.
a lot of action, so that's what you get with that one.
Sure. Okay. Great. Great. You have to check that one out too. That and Pixels will be on my watch list. Um, all right. Gonna jump into another one. going back to the 50s again, I had to include another classic just because I'm a
Oh,
huge
good.
fan of classic Hollywood. And again, that 50s era, there were so many. I own several, but this is one that I felt should be in there. And it's called It Came from Outer Space. This is now
Okay.
available
I
on
haven't seen it.
4K.
Oh.
So you can get the 4K edition. And actually, you should pick this up, Bert, because the Blu-ray that's included is a 3D Blu-ray. So this
Oh,
was
really?
originally released in 3D in theaters
Oh.
back in
Yeah,
the
I do need to pick that
50s.
up then.
Yeah, when the 3D craze was big back in the 50s. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's now come back around and now you can enjoy this classic movie in 3D. And there are several moments as I
Great.
was rewatching it, I was like, oh yeah, that would be really cool in 3D. It was clearly
Yeah.
shot with that
Yeah.
in mind, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Right. Huh.
yeah, it's a fun movie. It's cheesy, like a lot of these from the 50s are, but it's fun. That's the thing is like the characters are great. The acting is good. The creature design is another very unique design
Hmm.
that's really really
Okay.
cool. And so yeah, it's sort of one of those when I think 50s sci-fi, like this is what comes into my mind, this type
Okay.
of movie. And it's definitely one of the better ones because like I said, there were a lot made. And this one sort of rose to the top. That's why obviously they put a 4K version out is, they're not going to do that with any old movie. They did it with that one because it is a special one for
Okay.
sure. So
Nice.
so
Okay.
yeah, I would check it out if I were you, especially if you can find the 3D. All right,
Yeah.
moving on now, Bert, to your number 16 pick. What do you got?
I got another one. I don't think you like this one either. It's a Nicolas Cage film called Knowing.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about that. I've only seen it once. Maybe I should rewatch it,
Gotcha.
but I'm not crazy about it.
I've seen it a few times. I just
Okay,
really like the atmosphere. It's a very
okay.
sort of not spooky. It's one of those where you
Hmm.
kind of like you're trying to figure out what's going on and it's kind
Yeah,
of creepy
right,
and
right.
there's people standing outside people's houses at nighttime
Yeah.
and being followed around and Nicolas Cage plays this professor
Hmm.
and the just crazy events start happening and I don't want to give anything away to anybody who hasn't seen it, but
Hmm.
it's a bold ending
Yes, that's for
because
sure.
yeah, like a lot of these. But I'm fine with it.
Okay.
So but yeah, I've just enjoyed it a lot of times over the years. So
Yeah, I mean, look, like I always say, Nick Cage, his movies might not always be the best, but he's always very good in them. So you'll at least get a
yeah,
good Nick
yeah,
Cage performance out of that
yeah,
watch.
yeah.
So
Very
yeah,
serious
good.
performance.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Cool. All right. Going back again to the 1980s, another John Carpenter film, the third from this director who I'm obviously a huge fan of. Um, he did a film with a alien called Starman, starring Jeff
Oh,
Bridges
sure.
and
Yeah,
Karen
yeah,
Allen. I'm a huge fan of this movie. This is another different kind of alien movie because
yeah. I forgot about
he's
that one.
he's a very nice alien. He's just trying to do nice stuff for people, and it's really a
Yeah,
romance. I mean, is what it is.
yeah. Right,
And it's
right.
it's it's very very well made. Really like it. I like the
Yeah.
effects work in it. I like the performances. I didn't know this, but while I was doing research, uh, Jeff Bridges was nominated for Best Acting Oscar for this film.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, he was.
huh.
And it's rare that the Academy recognizes these kinds of movies, but I agree with them. I think his performance is that good. I mean, he's very believably playing an alien who doesn't know what's going on and
Yeah,
is very kind of fresh eyes to all the things that he's experiencing. And
yeah,
it's a really good performance, but from both him and Karen Allen, who he's playing off of the entire film. And it kind of becomes a road movie, and of course, the government gets involved and they're chasing after him and everything. I just think it's a great film. I really enjoy it. I've enjoyed it every time I've watched it, and yeah, I'm glad to have it in my collection. So that's where Starman ended up.
yeah. I've seen that a few times, but it's been
Have
a
you?
long time.
Okay.
Isn't that the one where he's driving and he's trying to mimic what he has seen other people do, and there's a yellow light coming up way down the road, and he just hits the gas and like blows
Yes.
through a red light, and she's like, "What are
Yes.
you doing?"
That's exactly
Yeah,
right. Yes, that's it.
yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, good movie. All right, Bert, we're on to your 17. What do you have there?
Okay, I have got a film called The Forgotten.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah,
in
I've heard of
case you
this, but I haven't seen
forgot who's in it, it's Julianne Moore,
it.
and it's a 2004 film.
Okay.
And I don't want to give much away because that's the brilliance of this film is that it's
Mm,
one of those that there's a very strange premise. Well, the premise is that she loses her son in a tragic accident, and
mm.
then at a certain point, everyone starts acting like her son never existed.
Oh, interesting.
And so she's kind of like, "Am I going crazy?" It's kind of like
Yeah.
the Jodie Foster film where she's on the airplane.
Oh yeah,
A
Flight
very
Plan.
similar thing
Yeah,
happened. Flight
yeah,
Plan.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar to
Sure.
that,
Okay, okay.
except Flight Plan didn't have aliens.
Right, right.
So,
Mm,
and so it's decent. I mean, we're in three-star territory at this point. But
okay,
it's I've watched it a few times. I enjoy it.
okay.
A good performance by Julianne Moore. Very
Mhm.
emotive performance.
Okay, excellent. Great, great. Yeah, that's another one I'll have to check out. I haven't checked that one out yet. So cool. All right. Going back again, even further back than the 80s to the 70s, 1978, starring the late great Donald Sutherland. It is
Oh,
Invasion of the Body
oh,
Snatchers.
okay, okay,
Really like this movie. This is another one that creates a really creepy atmosphere throughout it.
yeah,
Another one of those movies that has a lot to do with, paranoia, kind of Cold War, feelings at the time. And I just really, really enjoy the cast. I mentioned Sutherland. You got Leonard Nimoy in there as well,
oh,
off of Star Trek. And
yeah,
so it's really good. It's really well made. Philip Kaufman directed it. He's a really good writer and director, and just did a great job with this movie again, creating that creepy atmosphere and some really good practical effects, some kind of ooey gooey stuff that is always fun to watch in these kinds of movies. So yeah, that one made the list. I've only seen it a couple times, but it stands out in my mind. I want to add it to my collection. Actually, they just dropped a 4K version that I want to watch,
okay.
and it's another one with a great ending too. The ending is very memorable. So yeah, I would definitely recommend Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There's a 50s version as well, which I also like, but I think the 70s
Okay.
version is
Okay.
superior.
Okay. Yeah, I've never seen it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to for sure check that one out. I've heard
Oh
of it,
yeah. Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you should check it out for sure. Alrighty, Bert, we're now at your number 18 pick. Coming down towards the end now. What do you have there?
No one will save you from last year.
Oh, you took mine. Yeah, that was my next one.
Oh, oh. Well, we can both talk about it. There's
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah,
Only I get to keep it though. So,
right.
and I
Yeah.
really like this one. It was a little bit different.
Hmm.
I like what the aliens look like and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I do feel like they maybe show a little bit too much too early, but I
Mm,
do kind
okay.
of like what they are what they show us.
Yeah.
It's a similar film to War of the Worlds,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just not not nearly as good. But I enjoyed it. I maybe I was a little bit harsh on my rating. I gave it
Mm,
3 stars, but I
mm.
think you guys were a lot higher on it actually. You
Yeah, I
and
think I have this one at four,
Josh. Okay.
because it was just, again, so different. It's one character basically the whole movie. There's basically no dialogue
Yeah.
the whole movie.
Oh, right. That's right.
And
That's
it's
right. Yeah.
like,
Very unique.
the way the aliens, invade her house, and uh,
Uh-huh.
it's so different. Again, another one that I felt was really
Yeah. Yeah.
unique and very personal. It's very much a character going through something,
Yeah.
and kind of this
Right.
is kind of an allegory for what she's going through. So I really liked it a lot. I want to watch it again. I've only seen it, I think, once or twice when it first came out, but yeah, really, really big fan of that movie. Up and coming filmmaker who kind of hadn't done anything yet, and I thought he really did an impressive job with that movie. So yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got to skip that one over and go on to my next pick, which is a funny one. I'd like to have some comedy on there. Men in Black, you
Oh,
took
sure.
one of my comedies I had, but I wanted to go with this one. It's called The World's End. Edgar Wright directed this.
Oh,
Simon
sure. Yeah, I've
Pegg
seen
and
that.
Nick Frost
Hmm.
star in it. I think it's hilarious. I think it's part of this, trilogy of movies they made together, where they're not playing the same characters or anything, but it's kind of just they're loosely connected. But this is really fun. It's a movie about a group of friends, who are kind of doing this, bar hopping kind of journey, as they're kind of reunited years after high school. and
Right,
it's
right.
really about their relationships, but happens to be during the night of this big alien invasion, and so you get a lot of fun moments. It's an all-out comedy, so you get a lot of fun moments, but it does have some again the character moments are great too. So there's some drama in there as well, but it's all played for laughs, and it's very funny. I laugh all throughout that movie. I had a great time watching it. I just saw it for the first time, I think last year or the year before, pretty recently,
Okay.
and yeah, really liked it. So that made the list.
Yeah, I thought it was decent. Mm.
Yeah, it's fun. All righty. Bert, we've got your 19 picks, only two picks left in each of our lists. What do you have there at your number 19?
Okay, well, there was one film that I messaged you. I didn't see a review from you on
Mm,
Letterboxd or rating, and I said,
mm,
"Hey, you really should check out this one
mm.
because I want to discuss it." And
Yeah,
that's all I said
right.
because I was very curious about your thoughts about it. And that's
Sure.
Extinction.
Oh,
It's the
yes.
Netflix film
Yes.
from fairly recently.
Yep. A couple years ago, I
Um,
think it just came out.
yeah, and I don't know. I guess I kind of want to talk spoilers. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this,
Sure.
but it just was so different
Yeah.
that all right, so spoilers on this one,
Go for it.
but it's set up as humans being attacked by aliens. I mean, they
Right.
very clearly appear to
Yeah.
show this.
Right.
And then come to find out at a certain point, the big reveal is that the humans are the ones attacking sort of AI people.
Yes. Yes.
Like artificial, yeah, like artificial people. They look like people, but they're what do you call it? Humanoids or
Yeah, the
androids or
robots,
whatever you want to
androids.
call them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right,
Right.
right,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
And so I have thoughts about that, and like I didn't love. I thought I give it about a three stars because it was so different, and
Yeah.
because yeah, the way they sort of flip it like that.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to get your thoughts on whether you think a linear way of handling that would have been a better way to go, as far as letting us know
Oh,
from the beginning
huh.
that they were that it was that way, that it was
Yeah.
humans trying to reclaim Earth.
Right. I don't know. That's a good question. I didn't really think about that. If they had, yeah, restructured the film to be from the human point of view, that would have been interesting. I don't know. I
Because
like this
clearly they were
movie.
trying not
Okay.
to. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Go
yeah.
ahead.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I think I gave it 2 stars because I like that idea. I think the idea is
Yeah,
great. I just didn't think the execution was
right.
there. So what you're saying,
Completely agree.
that
Yeah,
might be a better way to do it.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I don't know
Yeah,
either. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. The action was just kind of serviceable. Performances,
yeah.
I like Michael
Right.
Pena a lot.
Uh-huh.
The acting was fine.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, maybe it was the structure though. Maybe it was the editing or something just felt off. Because again, like the reveal was great. The whole idea of it, I liked a lot. It was just it didn't quite hit on the level that I wanted
Yeah.
it to. Um,
Agree.
but it's
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
good pick because it's one people I think should go watch. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
some people I think would really like it. And again, I
Yeah.
liked a
I
lot
feel like I
of
might
it, but
like
just
it
not.
the second time through too, you know?
That's true. I wonder if I would like it better on a rewatch. That's a good point. Yeah.
Because that
Yeah. Okay.
overcomes the guess the trying to figure out what's going on. That
Right.
overcomes that. And then you can just see, is this actually a good movie told in this fashion?
Yes. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Well, I'm glad you included it anyway. So that's your number 19 pick. Good pick. All right. Going to jump over to my number 19, and I've only got two more that I can put in there. I am going to go with I'm going to go with Annihilation. Uh,
Oh, okay.
Annihilation, film from Alex Garland, who did Ex Machina, which I'm a big fan of. He just did this new movie, Civil War, that came out a couple
Oh,
months
right.
back. Really unique filmmaker, and he's a writer as well. He wrote 28 Days Later, the zombie movie
Oh,
from
okay.
Danny Boyle. And I really like this movie. It's very different. It's kind of sci-fi horror, a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
Right.
kind of investigating this, alien that's crashed and kind of transforming this area of this kind of forest. And
Yeah.
it gets
That's
really
weird.
bizarre at the end. It gets
Yeah.
really out there. I kind of love it for that though. I love like when movies take big swings like that, even if they don't fully work.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I'm gonna include it on the list because I want to rewatch. I haven't watched it actually in a while. Um,
Yeah.
but I liked a lot about it. The cast is so good. Natalie Portman, Oscar Isaac,
Yeah.
Tessa Thompson, Jennifer Jason Leigh. Just really, really good casting and very unique world kind of
Right.
alien
Right.
encounter type of film. So yeah, I'm gonna include it just because it's so different. Even if I don't like all the choices, I like the movie overall quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
And
what do you
that was
think?
the problem I had with it. Yeah, there were so
Yeah,
many interesting things about it, but I
right.
felt again like I think the last one we talked about, just the execution wasn't
Mm,
quite what it was just kind of a weird it's kind of a weird film.
it
It's
is.
not your typical it's not as
No.
accessible as most of the films on this list.
Yes,
I do
yes.
remember there's one very scary scene where they're investigating this house. I remember there was like a really
Yes.
scary scene involving a
Yes.
bear or something. I don't
Yep.
or a creature.
Yep.
That
Hmm.
was pretty scary. But yeah,
Definitely.
decent pick. I need to watch it again.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. Same here. I want to give it a rewatch and see how if it holds up better or worse or what. So,
Right.
all right. So that's my number 19. Bert, here's your last pick. What's it going to be at your number 20 slot?
Well, I knew you weren't going to steal this one. It's the 2008, The Day the Earth Stood Still with
There
Keanu.
we go. There we go.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, I've seen this film 3 or 4 times. Like I keep
Mm,
coming back to it here and
hmm
there.
hmm
Partly because I like Keanu a lot, and it's a very different role for him. I
Yeah.
mean, he's often a man of few words, and that's definitely the
Uh-huh.
case here.
Right.
But I just like how he's an alien walking around among us, and he looks human, but he may have like superpowers. Like you really don't know
Right.
what's going
Right.
on with this
Yeah.
thing.
Hmm
And the CG is a bit iffy at the very end,
mm.
but and I like what's her name, Jennifer Connelly in it too.
Finally, yeah.
So I don't know, it's
Hmm
just one I've returned to a few times. So
Okay.
it's definitely not the best film, but I
Mhm.
like when they're trying to interrogate him and all of that. It's
Yeah.
very hard to pin down what
Yeah.
the alien is about, and then also
Right.
um the giant like robot thing.
Yeah.
It's like
Gort.
a head. I
Hmm
forget exactly. I haven't seen it in a few years now, but
Yeah.
that thing's pretty interesting. And when they try to
Yeah.
attack it, like
Right.
all that's very fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's one I want to, I wouldn't mind rewatching it. Like I said, I've got it here, but I only have it because it includes the 1951 version. I saw that Keanu version once and I was just like, yeah, all right. But maybe I should rewatch it. I don't know. Maybe I would get something out of it. I remember it being obviously a much bigger movie and there being like big kind of, it's almost like a disaster movie in certain ways, if I remember it
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
There's a lot
yeah.
of destruction. So, cool. Well, great pick for your last one. I'm gonna go with. It's funny that you included the remake of a film that I picked. I'm gonna pick a remake or the
Right.
original version of a remake that I picked. It's The War of the Worlds from
Oh, okay.
1953. I really like this version. I think it's
Yeah,
fantastic. Obviously, Spielberg was a huge fan. Like you mentioned, a lot
yeah,
of scenes are directly
yeah.
translated. So I think it's very well made,
Mhm.
especially for the time the
Yes.
effects, the like you mentioned, the creatures and all of that stuff is handled
Kind of creepy.
extremely well. Yeah, very, very creepy,
Yeah.
especially again for the era. Um,
Hmm.
and this one is directed by Byron Haskin, who's a
Mm.
director who's done many great movies. Of course, H.G. Wells wrote the original story. And famously, Orson Welles did a radio play of version of it before the movie came
Right.
out, and people started
Yeah.
freaking out because they thought it was the news.
Thought it was real.
They
Yeah.
thought it was a real deal. So it's got War of the Worlds has a very interesting history, but that film version, the first film version of it, I think still holds up really well, kind of surprisingly well. I rewatched it this week. It's this Criterion edition is really cool, has several commentaries on it and a lot of
Oh,
behind the scenes info and things like that. So yeah, very very impactful film. It was a big hit when it was released, and it's certainly had a big impact on the genre as a whole and Hollywood in general, just because of the effects and everything, the kind of groundbreaking effects they used in that film. And so yeah, rounding out my list with another War of the Worlds. War of the Worlds starts it and ends it. So I thought that was a good bookend for my list there.
that is. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, that's it for our alien invasion movie draft picks. So you've got Bert's list, you've got my list. I'm going to leave the lists in the description of the video so you can check those out there. Let us know who had the better list.
Yeah,
Bert stole.
which one would you rather have?
Yeah, yeah. If you were going to a desert island, like Bert said at the beginning, you could only take one of these lists. Which one are you going to take with you? And let us know in the comments below. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you there. This was fun. I like this format a lot, Bert. I
Yeah,
think this is going to be a
yeah,
fun one moving forward. We're going to try to do more of these.
yep.
We're not going to do it every time, but this was a fun one. So thank you again for joining me, man.
Of course. Yeah, I loved it.
All right, folks, that's it. Thank you so much again for listening and watching. Make sure you check out all of our other videos. We've got movie reactions, we've got Blu-ray reviews, all kinds of fun stuff on the channel right now. Carson and I started doing movie news as a separate video. So instead of the podcast, you now get movie news in its own video. So make sure you watch
I like
those
that.
as well. Thanks, Bert. Appreciate that. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you again all for joining us. Make sure you leave that comment. Leave us your list as well. If you have a list of alien invasion movies, we want to know your favorites. Make sure you hit that like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. Oh, we're both on Letterboxd as well. Make sure you follow us there. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Follow us at The Real World. All those links are in the description. Thank you again. We will see you next time right here on The Real World.